Winks, you know how I'm totally obsessed with the canine microbiome at the moment? Well, that's why we're jumping on Zoom now to find out how broth can really make a difference to your dog's biome and a whole lot more. I'm Anna Webb. Welcome to A Dog's Life. Rachel Down, how amazing it is that you've joined us on A Dog's Life.
Thank you, Anna, for inviting me on. It's just a pleasure to be here.
Well, you know that I'm mad about bone broth, which is really why our conversation began. And I've just found it fascinating, your journey with what's probably one of the oldest remedies known to modern science, might you say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can trace the bone broth, the history of bone broth, right back to, 3000 BC. We've been literally bubbling bones for many, many years, and that tradition has been lost over time.
It really has. And it was interesting. I remember as a child, my dad would make soup, whether it was a chicken or whatever we'd eaten, and that was really interesting. But as you say, it's died. And then it was in my study with the College of Integrated Veterinary Therapies that bone broth was brought back to my attention, you see, and how it was like such a powerful immune system boost,
Yes.
Along with many other things, and particularly for older dogs to boost them. So
Yes.
that got me started, making my own.
Oh, great.
But
you have the hours of the smelling of the kitchen.
Yes, and always living in a one-bedroom flat. Yes, it absorbs the whole atmosphere, and people would walk in and go, interesting aroma, Anna. What is it? As lovely broth would waft through to the front door, and of course it is a long process and quite mucky in a way, and that you're dealing with loads of bones and skin
Yes.
off the meat, and so how convenient is it, your invention? Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so I'll go back to the beginning if you don't mind, just to
I'd
tell
love
a bit about
that.
just to tell a bit about how I sort of got into making broth. So I'd like to say, I have a dog story, but sadly I don't. But it was all based around my own health. And I'd had two children, and I was 16 stone in weight, and I was not very well. I'd had a lot of infections, thrush. I was being prescribed antibiotics frequently. I think I was on antibiotics constantly for about 12 months. And it wasn't until I sort of was getting nowhere with the doctors. And it's so funny, my journey with health is so mirrors what happens in the pet space as well, because I just was becoming very frustrated with conventional medicine. I wasn't feeling like I was getting the answers from the doctors. Their answer to me was always medicine. And I felt that actually there was something deeper going on within my body. And I didn't even think for a minute that it would be to do with my diet and my gut health. And eventually, it wasn't until I moved away from the doctors that I realized that I needed to research this myself. And I discovered gut health, and more specifically, all about bone broth. And this was back in 2016, 2017, and bone broth over in Australia was particularly popular over there. So I just started to research how to make it myself, because I wasn't able to find a decent broth in the UK. There was a couple of broth companies around, but a lot of them were adding in vegetables. And believe it or not, Anna, I had become intolerant to certain vegetables. So I couldn't include them all in my diet. So I thought, right, that's it. I'm just going to set about making a pure bone broth with nothing else in it, just a whole load of bones, and see how I get on. And then I actually reversed my health condition, Anna, within 12 weeks, and I lost 2.5 stone. And then over the course of 2 years, I lost 6 stone. So it was a really massive transformation for me. And I absolutely felt like I needed to get bone broth and kefir water, because I was making that as well at the time. I needed to get it out there to people. And it wasn't long before I sort of built a website and had people coming and buying the broth. Then I was getting the questions, is your bone broth okay to give to my dog? And the more I researched it and, discovered it was perfect for dogs' gut health and for also their joint health. So I set about on a mission to get my pet food license to make bone broth for dogs and cats also, because it is good for cats too. And we became the first bone broth company in the UK to hold a co-located license to produce bone broth for humans and for pets. So yeah, that's really where we started.
It's amazing. I love that story. And it's so interesting to hear your story, as a human. It does kind of highlight how, you are what you eat, and nutrition has kind of evaded the medics, perhaps.
Mm.
And, that includes vets. And so, it is through an interest, I think, really, in health and how the body works and why we eat. I mean, we eat not to kill boredom. We eat because we want to better our health. You are what you eat. So I love that you made all this bone broth and the licensing for pets, but then you took it a step further and you began to dehydrate the broth. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Anna. We sold frozen bone broth for many years. So we've got a small factory now. So I started the broth from one slow cooker in my kitchen, a bit like how you were doing.
Yeah. Gosh,
So
you must have had a constant aroma going on.
I did. The neighbours didn't love me. um, but by the time I left my first house, I had 9 slow cookers in my conservatory bubbling away, and it was time to leave at that point. And yeah, so we just sort of grew the business over time organically, and yeah, so we're freezing the bone broth for about 5-6 years, and it was okay, but it was always troublesome. The bigger you get or the more customers you have, the harder it becomes to ship things out to people, because there's more customers that have, they're not always in to receive their deliveries. There was courier problems. Obviously we're having a lot hotter summers now, so we were finding that the broth was defrosting, or it wasn't getting to the customer in its really proper form. And obviously you have to be careful with bone broth because it is a meat-based product, and if it defrosts and then sits around defrosted for too long, it can collect bacteria. So we wanted to make sure that we were delivering a frozen product, and whilst we were adding in wool and frozen ice and everything else into it, there were times when it just didn't make it, particularly if the courier took 4 days to deliver somebody's parcel. And it wasn't until the whole Brexit thing, when UK stopped trading, or trading with Europe got a lot more difficult, that actually we lost a lot of our European customers, because we used to send our broth to Spain and some other locations, frozen broth, and we could get it there quicker than what we could to Scotland. So we lost, I know, believe it or not.
Oh no, I can't believe it. Gosh.
the modern transport, hey. But anyway, so we lost that business, and it really bothered me. And at the time, we were starting to receive emails from customers over in Europe, from pet shops, asking if we had a powder broth or a dry broth. And I thought, wow, this is probably something we really need to explore. So with my team, a small team, we set about on a mission to innovate the bone broth, to basically dry it instead of freezing it. I looked at lots of different ways to preserve the broth, but lots of different companies dry it and then they add bulkers and fillers and all that other stuff. But I really, it's so important to me to keep the integrity of the nutrition of the bone broth, because anytime you add other ingredients, you're basically reducing the nutrition, and particularly if they're unnatural products. So yeah, we just set about to dehydrate, and it was a massive innovation project over about 18 months. And yeah, finally now we're at the point where we can really dehydrate bone broth so well, and it's so much easier for the customer. We can ship it to them really easy. Our bone broth can arrive through your letterbox. You don't have to stay in anymore for your big parcels, and it doesn't take up your freezer space either.
Yes, I mean, what a great innovation, really. I mean, when you explained all this to me, and I have been using boil and broth, and even on myself, actually, I'm quite happy to use the ones that's got dog on it, obviously, because you did explain it is exactly the same. But I understand that some people might feel a bit nervous about that. However, what I was particularly interested in when we were chatting was that you have done some studies, because I know, Rachel, you're a bit like me. You like some science to back up everything. So explain what your research did prove about the dehydrated.
Yeah, great, Anna. Thank you. Yeah, Anna, this is probably why we get on so well, because we just love, science. I love everything small, and yeah, it's fascinating to learn. And I think that was probably my hunger and my spirit for wanting to become better, wanting to become well again, is because I wanted to find out how I was going to do it and why that was going to work. And yeah, so the research behind that really proved important. And yeah, so from the dehydrated perspective, the bone broth, all of the nutrition, Anna, is in the bones. It doesn't matter if you add in vegetables or seasoning or anything like that. It's all in the bones. And so if you put more bones into your broth, you're going to get more nutrition out of it. And that was really the rule with it. So it's very similar with the dehydrated. The more bones that we use, the better the quality of the product is. Now, slow dehydrating, I mean, it does take a long time to dry broth. You've got to remember it's 96% water, and we've got to remove all of that water from the broth. So it takes around 3 to 4 days dehydrating at a slow, safe temperature, that then there's no alteration to the nutrition of the product, and we just literally grind it down and we package it. Now, customers can check the nutritional quality of our products, because all bone broth should have collagen in them. And if your broth doesn't wobble, then it usually means there's a lower ratio of bones to water, so there's not as much collagen in there. So yeah, a testament to our product is that customers can rehydrate it back to its original state from what we actually took the water out from. So when the bone broth goes into our big dehydrators to be dried, it's a thick collagen, it's wobbly, it's amazing. And then when it comes back out again, it's like a giant crisp. And customers will see it as a powder that they just add the boiling hot water, and they can set it back into the fridge for 24 hours or more, and then it will set back to a collagen jelly. Now, it's just important to remember your fridge has got to be at 3 degrees, because collagen is really temperature sensitive. If it's any more than that, then it starts to become more of a liquid. And also you have to consider, you don't want to be adding too much water to the powder, because otherwise you get that water to broth ratio, if that makes sense.
Yes, and the instructions on the packet are so simple to follow. So I've been like making quite a big batch, and then I been decanting it into ice cube trays and just sticking it in there. Job done. And then
Perfect.
We pop it out as we go, and certainly on a lovely day like today, a little broth ice cube is such a great idea to cool your dog down, because we know, of course, of the protein, and it's namely collagen, but there's other proteins in broth, but there's so many other minerals like manganese in broth. And of course, it's this electrolyte consistency of broth as well that makes it easier to hydrate a dog with broth than it is with water alone. And I think that's the point to really highlight, as hopefully we're running into summer now, and dogs do get hot in the heat. They can't help it. They're 2 degrees hotter than us just naturally. They've covered in fur, they can't perspire like us and all the rest of it. So dangerous for them, the heat. So I feel that broth is like an isotonic drink for dogs. Would you agree?
Yeah, that is excellent, Anna. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it is so much harder for dogs during the warmer temperatures. And, we are seeing increases in warmer temperatures now, more so than any other time in our life. So, yeah, to keep them cool is really important. And the electrolytes, it's the magnesium, the potassium, the sodium that's in the broth itself that can help to replenish that's lost through sweating, because obviously dogs have a hormone system, they do sweat, and so that can help to replace and rehydrate. And particularly if dogs aren't always good at drinking water, are they, Anna? So making sure that you have got the broth around for them to replenish what's lost. I think it's important to also mention here, you don't want to leave bone broth lying around for the whole day in a warm kitchen or anything like that. You want to encourage your dog. So this is why what you were saying with the ice cubes, or making up little pour ice molds or something like that, is a really great way to ensure that your dog is getting bone broth throughout the day. And even making up ice pops as well, Anna, for
Yes.
the dog.
Absolutely. Well, that's like the ice cubes, just in a little bowl. They just like licking them, and then as they melt, they'll crunch them. But it is interesting that when a dog refuses to drink on a really hot, sunny day, that is the dog's instincts telling you that the dog is actually at the point of overheating, because it's their body saying to them, right, I mustn't drink anything because that will make me pee. And if I pee, I will lose moisture from my body. So they go into a kind of a shutdown state. So people thinking, well, I offered them a drink and they didn't want to drink, so they can't be thirsty. Think again on a hot day. So, and that's where broth comes in, because of the flavoring. It tempts the dog more also to have a little go on it. And then they realize, oh, yes, this is helping my body.
Wow, that's fascinating. I didn't know that, but that makes a lot of sense. Dogs are amazing, aren't they?
Yes. Oh, no, they totally are. But it is. So it's something that can catch people out, particularly first time dog owners, that maybe haven't gone through a summer yet with their dog. And different dogs cope differently in the heat as well, depending on age mainly. Typically, the young and the old, are more vulnerable, just as they are in humans. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. I mean, and broth is so good, Anna, because it has so much nutrition in there, and it's all 100% natural as well. I mean, broth naturally contains glucosamine and chondroitin as well, which are really good amino sugars, perfect for the joints and ligaments. It also contains glutamate and glycine, which again is really fantastic for reducing inflammation, particularly of the digestive system. And as we'll talk about in a minute with the broth study. Obviously inflammation of the gut is a real problem for dogs these days.
Well, yes, and humans, we know
Yes.
IBS now is a condition in dogs, which it never used to be, back in the day. And so I think, it goes back fundamentally to your diet, that's the core. And I really think bone broth should be considered as a core ingredient. And I'm drinking it now. I never thought I would actually, but I'm making
Yay.
myself. Yay. Because segueing now, into the gut. Everyone's now talking about the microbiome. It's the latest hot science to emerge for both humans and for our pets. And it is this anti-inflammatory. I know it's a word that you can't sort of, in inverted commas, legally say, but it has been said over the years that bone broth is anti-inflammatory, and you can kind of see why in terms of its bioavailability to literally transfer through the gut lining and really help moisturize, help with these electrolytes, and nourish these thousands of millions of little bacteria that are wriggling around in all of our guts, whether we like it or not. They're there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, our gut microbiome is just amazing. It's so diverse, and a dog's gut microbiome is so diverse as well. I was researching, and humans have 1,000 different strains of bacteria, and a lot of them aren't doing a great deal, but also dogs have around 300 different strains of bacteria. Again, not many of them do much, but they all work in harmony. It's like an amazing ecosystem in there, Anna. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I know. And we're just really discovering all of this. And, there is an amazing microbiologist and researcher called Carol Hughes, who I know we've both linked in with. I find her so interesting, as she has studied so many different types of microbiomes, from guinea pigs to ferrets to dogs to horses to donkeys and several loads of cats. And she's really pioneering what we're seeing in our pets through the microbiome. Isn't that right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Carol is fantastic, and she's a real leader in this space. And just the study of the canine microbiome is fascinating. And what's interesting is, I obviously have listened to the podcast with Carol, and I know obviously we've spoken about this quite at length, Anna, before, but Carol has discovered that there are, all dogs have a poor microbiome, which is really, really sad, And I think this is such an important part of science that we need to understand, and also to educate on, and looking at ways that we can help our canine friends, you know, to be healthier. Yes, it all starts, you know, with food, what they're being given for food. You know, it all starts with, you know, what their environment they're in. There's so much to it, but it needs to get out to the right people, you know, especially into the vet space, because the more dogs that we are seeing now that are poorly, I mean, like you, Anna, we have so many different dogs, but pet parents coming to us very upset, distraught, don't know what to do with their dogs, that they've been trying different things, they've been, you know, going to vets. And obviously we can't offer advice here, but we can certainly encourage people to start with the broth. And it's amazing because Carol, you know, she also recommends broth for her customers. So yeah, that hence why we're doing this little study. Hey,
I know we are doing a study. Rachel, we're really proud to announce that there is a study that is happening now. So we've teamed up with Carol Hughes, who we mentioned earlier, to highlight, isn't it, Rachel, that using broth for a month, particularly if you've never used it before in your dog, can make a radical difference, particularly where two bacteria strains in particular are concerned that are very vital for the microbiome. It can replace these bacteria and make your dog more healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is essentially the study. We want to answer the question, could adding bone broth help my dog's gut microbiome? And I 100% believe that it can. And it's good to be able to actually run a study to show that this is real. So essentially how it will work is we're going to do 2 microbiome tests. So one of the dog's gut health before they have bone broth. So as you said, Anna, it works better with dogs that haven't had bone broth before in their diet. So one microbiome test before, and then the dog will have bone broth for 4 weeks, and then we'll test the microbiome after that. And and Carol, amazing Carol, she's going to be able to provide all the full reports of the changes in the gut microbiome. And we're also going to have it written up as not a science study, because I don't want it to become a science study, if you know what I mean. We want to keep it quite layman's, I think, for people to understand, because otherwise too much science can blind people. But we just want to keep it simple, Anna. I think, you know, let's just see if there is a positive influence on the dog's gut microbiome by having bone broth in the diet.
Absolutely. I'm so excited because I would really hope that it does reveal some quite interesting statistics. You know, having done psychology, you know, I did find the statistics part of it an absolute headache doesn't describe it, actually. So I've never been very good at maths, and I remember doing correlations, and honestly, yeah, but it was mandatory to pass that, you see, or I wouldn't have got a degree. So on my 3rd attempt, and it was my final 3rd attempt, I passed my statistics. So yay. So I don't know whether we can do any correlations on this, can we, Rachel?
Yeah, maybe. I'll pass that one to you, Anna. You sound like you're a good person to do that.
Oh no, please don't do that. No. I mean, I think probably Carol's laboratory people will be far better at doing that. At least it probably take them 5 minutes rather than me take 5 years. But no, just joking. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity for listeners, actually, that would like to investigate their dog's microbiome and find out how healthy it is, and have this great opportunity to have, you know, the biome analyzed by an amazing expert, and the opportunity to try some broth, which I think you're gifting away for free. Am I right, Rachel?
Yeah, that's right. We've got a price that includes, you know, everything. Like, I'm not charging for the broth at all. We literally just have to cover the cost of the laboratory, you know, to do all the analysis and everything. So obviously there's a cost to that, but everything else, even Carol writing up the report, that's free. All of your amazing work, Anna, that you're going to be doing, I know that you're donating your time to do that, because it is a really, really important study and no one's done it before. And I think that the most important thing that people need to understand is that gut health is vital for your dog's long-term wellness. If they have a poor gut microbiome diversity and they're eating the wrong foods, they're, you know, they're just going to get poorly over time. And they may be showing some symptoms now, they may not do. And the thing is that it could be a few years down the line before you start to see, you know, the effects of a long-term health disease that could be going back to the health of their gut. So it's important for dogs who are unwell, and the pet parents want to find out a bit more about their health and what's going on in their health. But also it's important for those dogs who are young or want, you know, healthier, longer lives, to really take this seriously. And the study of the microbiome is just fascinating, and there's lots of things happening in the human space, so it absolutely needs to transfer to the canine space.
Yes. Oh, gosh. I think that said it all, really. And it is about, it's called the precautionary principle that I learned about, you know. So if you're blessed to bring a puppy into your life, you have the whole world, you have longevity and everything at your fingertips. You have the ability to train your dog to be the best behaved dog, and it all interrelates because of the gut. I mean, I see this with dogs that I work with. I see mood swings in some processed fed dogs. I can tell a dog that hasn't been fed on processed food actually by looking at them. I can see through their eyes. It's really interesting. And also it's interesting, I think there's so many, you know, it's great that people have brought dogs into their lives through the pandemic. Look, dogs bring us joy. But I do think, you know, a lot of people rushed into dog ownership, maybe didn't really think it through. Maybe people didn't really understand what a dog is totally, but they're learning now. And that's great, because nothing could be a better education in my mind for anyone. But, you know, my point is, I think a lot of people don't know when their dog might be looking not quite right, because that comes from experience. So I think a lot of minor ailments that can build over time, you know, and accumulate are things that can be nipped in the bud very, very quickly with a great foundation of you are what you eat from the start, positive training, minimizing stress, because all of these things also actually contribute to the biome's health. I was listening, there was a great, I don't know if you heard it actually, and anyone listening, you can all go back on BBC Sounds and find this. It was on Monday night. I was just tuned in quite late, actually, because I'd been out to the Bryan Adams concert, in brackets, and I thought, what's this on Radio 4? So I got totally diverted from this highly mad, wonderful evening, listening to the development of defining the immune system, right? It was a really interesting feature. And guess where the immune system is? Because nobody really knew where it was. I mean, some people might still doubt that it is in your gut lining, but that's actually where the immune system is. You know, we know where our kidneys are, we know where our heart is, and so on. But it's like, well, where's the immune system? And so it was the scientists way back in about 1900 that began investigating the fact that we had this bacteria, and what on earth was it doing there? You know, and it was such an interesting feature, actually. So that was Radio 4 at about midnight on Monday, the 13th of May. So everyone can backtrack on BBC Sounds. But it really does highlight why keeping the microbiome healthy is key for longevity. And that's the word. That's the word I love at the moment, longevity, Rachel. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I love the body. I love the human body. I love the canine body. It's absolutely fascinating. And yes, you're right. 70% of the immune system does live within the gut, and it plays so. And they've proven now that the bacteria plays a vital role in communicating with the immune system and the immune health of humans, and quite rightly so would be dogs as well. And I think, the microbiome, you know, people don't realize, but it's made up of, you know, good bacteria, good fungi, bad bacteria, bad fungi, you know, and a full range of different microbes. And the thing is that the good guys, they are like the police. They take over, you know, they monitor, they get rid of bad bacteria, you know, they just keep everything in harmony and check within the gut microbiome. And if if there is a poor diet, if there's too many antibiotics, vaccines, whatever, all the unnatural things going into the body, then sadly that naturally kills off the good bacteria. And then as a result, you have the bad bacteria and the bad fungi that take over, they infiltrate the body, They if you're feeding yourself or your dog high sugar, lots of carbohydrates, then therefore you're feeding those microbes. They're growing, they're able to colonize more, and yeah, it does lead to long-term health problems. So if you actually take yourself out of the situation and say, right, I'm going to look at feeding my gut. What does my gut need? What does my dog's gut need? What does my family's gut need? Let's take a different approach here. Is the food that you're buying for your dog 100% natural? Because if it's not, then it is going to be having an effect on the gut microbiome, and as a result, longevity, it will become a problem, because they won't be because they'll have developed new diseases and so on.
It's kind of like the antithesis of conventional medicine in a way, which relies on pharmaceuticals being taken, so whereas I always say to people, right, we're going to begin by boosting your dog's microbiome, and that's where we begin, right, whether it's behavior or a nutrition consult or just overall wellness, which includes both, which I will be offering a discount, by the way, for anyone involved in our study that's listening, so that if the biome results come back a little wonky, like my Mr. Binks's biome was studied. Now he's 12, and as dogs age, the biome changes with age. It is a reflection, unfortunately, of the aging process. So he's got too much fusobacteria in there at the moment, which are considered bad boys. So his diversity is good, but it's why there is so much of this fuso in there. And it could be because he has a degenerative condition that he was born with, his leg calves Perv's disease. So it could be a reflection of this. It could be his age, but we're working very big time on it at the moment. So, I mean, his biome's been sent to Manchester University. I know. So, I know. So that's going to be another, nice conversation to have with Carol in due course. And of course, I'm sure she's so excited to receive the requests from our study as well, because that's what Carol's mission is, really, is to try and work out a way to stop dogs being in crisis, in sickness, which her studies have shown that compared to cats and compared to horses, dogs are really in worse health. So I want her to do a study, and maybe it's something we could do as well, Rachel, is go into cats for the next one. What do you think? And do a study on cats that go in and out, and cats that do remain indoors all the time, and see if that shows a real difference in their bacteria diversity. What do you think?
Great idea. I love it. I think it's so important. It's the data that's really valuable. If we can gather data from as many different dogs and cats, when we launch that study, I think that's such a great idea. Cats are really, they're such a different animal. They don't drink very much at all. That's why broth, again, is really good for them. They have common health conditions. Chronic kidney disease is a real issue for cats. So if we can start getting data from dogs and cats with all these different ailments, all these different ages, all these different breeds, we might be able to see some commonalities. We might be able to see, it's really exciting. It really is. And I we just appeal to people to get on board with this, and if you've had broth before, if your dogs have broth before, but friends who've got dogs that haven't, then please share it, because it's a great project to be part of, but also it's fascinating for them too.
Yes, and it will ultimately help your dog, that's for sure.
Well, absolutely.
So, and then, yes, gosh, and we haven't really talked enough about your kefir drink for pets. So very quickly, it's interesting with the kefir in terms of the lactobacillus, which is the strain of bacteria that normally is annihilated, I think I'm right in saying, by antibiotics.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, the lactobacillus is a really good friendly bacteria. You want to make sure you've got those good guys in the gut. And so interestingly, there's been some studies that show that when it's replenished back in the gut, that it has a direct impact and improvement on the immune system. So our kefir drink. So during my own health journey, I was making kefir water because I wanted to have some natural probiotics again. You know, probiotics. I was thinking to myself, they have to be natural, and so of course they are. You can get them in fermented foods. So I discovered that kefir particularly was a really good natural probiotic drink. They do it as a milk kefir, and a water kefir. The grains. They grow on a cactus, and they're harvested from cactus, and then the grains themselves are then mixed with sugar water. And because it's like a starter culture, it's got loads of bacteria on these kefir grains. They then feed off of the sugar that's in the water, and they convert the sugar into CO2. So it becomes a naturally sparkling drink. But also the fibers that are in the drink, in the sugars and the food, it feeds off of those and uses it as food and colonizes these bacteria. So in the drink itself, you just get an abundance of bacteria. So the kefir drink, we tested at the lab, which was really exciting. And we discovered that in 1 gram of our kefir water, 1 ml, there's 98 million lactobacillus friendly bacteria. So just on our journey with, stepping into the pet space, we really felt that it was important to offer the kefir drink to dogs as well. Because knowing that the gut bacteria is often depleted from antibiotics and other pharmaceutical drugs, we felt that was a real great step in helping to heal a dog's digestive system as well. And actually, it's a powerful drink, Anna. It really is. We've had dogs that have come to us with ear infections, or skin infections, acne. Or not acne, but like rashy, just really, and yeasty paws, yeasty ears. And as soon as they have the kefir water, because of the lactobacillus in there and its relationship with other bacteria in the gut, it really helps to improve symptoms.
It's amazing. I'm thrilled actually to be using this. So because poor old Prue, she's had 2 courses of antibiotics. I've had to. She has had suspected Alabama rot, this mystery disease. All her symptoms are such, but vets don't really know what causes it, and they don't really know how to cure it. So she's okay. She seems to be battling it, and I think it is an immune system ability to do so, you see. And I know her immune system should be as good as any dog's can be, due to her diet, being weaned to raw and so on, and a good lifestyle and all the rest of it. But yeah, so it is a bit of a worry. However, so I'm not going to give her any more. So we now have to battle this. And she still has a few these bizarre lesions occurring below her wrist and below her ankle, which is the symptom. So it's really strange. But we've been dolloping it on, into her food. But again, you could do ice cubes with the kefir, fantastic on a cold day, brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Just that they are great. Add fruit. I don't know if you encourage dogs to have little bits of fruit, particularly berries. Is that something you do, Anna? Or
me? Yes. 100%. Absolutely. I am a fan actually of a product that's produced by Paleo Ridge that's called Berry Good, and it really is very good, and it's just a pokey combination of kale, broccoli, seaweed, hemp seed. It's got some green lip mussel in there, blackberries, blueberries, and it's easy because I am quite lazy when it comes to sort of cooking and that side of life, really. So I do like things made easy for me, and this makes it easy for me, as does your kefir water and the bone broth, to be honest. So it's lovely. And I just decant it again, semi-thaw it, decant it into ice cubes, and it's just a green mush, because it's so important to remember for people that dogs can only really digest berries if they're squidged up, because they can't break through, their digestion won't allow them to go through the cellulose wall of fruit and herbs and vegetables. So you do need to pulverize it so it becomes bioavailable, and they don't need much. That's the other thing, because too much of all that will create inflammation.
Wow, that is fascinating, Anna. I didn't realize that, but that is really good information to know. So if a customer's making up some kefir pour molds or kefir ice cubes or something, you recommend that they crush the berries before they go into the molds and then
Yes.
pour the kefir in after that.
Yes, that would be my ideal way of doing that particular option, which I think is a really good idea, and I'm going to do it myself. But yes, I mean, you could even mix the berry good, even, or with some kefir, stir it all up, make it a bit more runny, and then just pop it back into the ice cube tray formula. I just think that works, because you have to be concerned that, particularly also, as you said earlier, with broth, it does have a habit of going off a bit in the fridge. I've learned that, so you need to use it pretty quickly once it's been thawed. So, let's portion it out, let's portion out the berry good. And then you also know that you're giving the right amount, that's species appropriate. We could eat a whole tub of the berry good. It's not recommended. It is for dogs. But that's because we're omnivores, and we can eat tons and tons of vegetables and grains and be vegan and be healthy. But dogs can't, because they're carnivores. So that's the main difference. And cats, again, even more carnivorous really than dogs. So giving cats any vegetable or any fruit is totally superfluous to requirements. It can't be absorbed in their body. They are meat eaters 110%. That's why, for me, sometimes I feel, gosh, that cats get even the worst rap, in a way, because, and so many of them, 1 in 10 dogs will suffer kidney failure in their lives, which is a very high statistic. But with cats, it's 80%.
Wow,
So,
is it really?
yeah,
80%?
yeah.
Oh, that's so awful,
I know.
And why is that, Anna? Is that because of the why is it? Why do you think that is?
Why? Well, it's what you touched on earlier. I don't know, is that cats need to absorb moisture from their food, because, look, think of a lion. Where do lions live? In Africa, where it's very, very hot, it's very dry. There isn't a tap anywhere available. So they have to get their moisture from their food. So, that's why when they do kill a zebra, you see that the zebra is often with its 4 legs. Sorry if anyone's eating or anything at the moment. With their 4 legs in the air, and they've gone straight for the stomach, because and that's raw green tribe and that's got the most moisture in it, and it's also got regurgitated minerals and vitamins from all of the grass and leaves and what have you that the zebra as a ruminant would have eaten. So raw green tribe always comes from a lamb or a venison or a deer or a cow or a zebra, but never from a chicken or a turkey, for example. So that's why the ruminants are so important, and they're lapping up all the juices. Yeah, let's not get into detail, but that's how they get their moisture. But of course, if you feed a cat on an ultra processed dry food every day, they're not getting any moisture from that at all. That primary reason for this massive cause of death being kidney failure in cats.
Wow, that is amazing. That is so interesting, but it makes perfect sense. Again, common sense, isn't it, really? That yes, if you're giving your cat dried processed food, they're not going to be getting the hydration at all. That's so fascinating. I just wanted to mention, Anna, before we moved on, just with the kefir drink, is that people often think that a dog's just going to drink it straight. That's not always the case. Some dogs will, but yeah, it is best to make it into the pour molds or to mix it with the food or something to make sure that they're getting that hydration. And again, it's really good for cats as well, Anna. You can give the kefir drink to a cat on top of their food.
Yes, no, absolutely. Well, my cats over the years, well, Gremlin, who sadly passed about a year ago. So it's a bit of an awkward time for me at the moment. I've got flashbacks going on, but that's normal. It's called grief and it takes a long time. But he guzzled broth. He absolutely loved it. And he ate a raw diet all his life. And it was interesting when he had a full body ultrasound, as you do, to try and figure out what the dickens was wrong with him, which we never did until it was too late. The vet was amazed at how good his kidneys were. He said he had kidneys of a young cat. Similarly, his whole urinary tract was intact, when that's another problem. They get crystals and they get stones. So all down to an inappropriate diet, really. So it is really sad. So, the cat that arrived on my doorstep, Baggy, the tomcat, I think he is feral, because he just guzzled raw. It was like, oh, this is amazing. But it's so difficult to change cats' diets. That's where it's difficult. So if a cat's eaten a certain food up until they're 6 months of age, it's going to be really hard, if not impossible, to change them onto a different type of diet. They become addicts to whatever they've been addicted to up until 6 months. So if you get your kitten before 6 months, which most people do, then if you go on to an appropriate diet at that time, then you're going to be fine. The cat will take to it and will carry on only eating that for the rest of their lives. So cats are tricky to convert. So that does make it even more difficult. So adding a little bit of kefir or broth to a processed diet will help it. There's a lot you can do to boost a processed food diet, adding a little bit of a sardine, or maybe trying to grate a natural dog treat onto it to get a bit of extra nutrients. So you can enhance diets so that they're, a bit better. That's something Karen Becker and Rodney Habib have been brilliant at doing through their, landmark Forever Dog book. And they've got a new one out, actually. But I still think it's focused mainly on dogs. I think cats are the under-resourced area here, Rachel.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I have a friend who's she's a real cat advocate, and she always tells me that she's trying to give cats a voice, because they don't have a voice. All the research, everything is for dogs. It's where the market is, so that's where it keeps going. But like you say, cats are delicate. They're small creatures. They are very different to dogs, and they do need to be treated in that way.
No, absolutely. Well, we'll have our microbiome test sorted out for cats too. I'd love to do that. And I know my listeners, many of them obviously have cats too. But Rachel, tell me, I know you don't have a dog at the moment, but if you were to bring a dog into your life, what type of dog would it be?
Oh, Anna, this is such a lovely question. We've always wanted a dog in our family. My children are still young, so yeah, we're desperate to get one. We just can't have one where we live, unfortunately. But yes, I would love to have a Labrador, and you know what? I'd have to have a puppy, because I love the little Labrador puppies. They're so cute. Love the short-haired dogs, and they're just a really nice temperament for me.
Oh, they are. They're sort of a classic, if you like. And that's why they are forever, really, Britain's most popular dog. They are always in pole position in the Kennel Club's top 10, to be honest. And indeed, yeah, no, 100%.
I've chosen a really, really common dog.
Well, no, it's not that it's common. I mean, it's because, their temperament is such that they do make a great family dog, as does the Golden Retriever. And, it's all about finding the good breeders and parents that have been health tested for their hips and elbows in the main, because those hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia is something that can affect them. But yeah, and from, good temperament parents, that's the thing. But they're so easy to train, Labradors. Every time I train a Labrador, I think, oh gosh, this is a dog for me next time, and then I come home and I hang out with Prudence and I think, oh, do you know, no, I think I think I like my life difficult.
I love that. Oh, I know. Well, I have to say, I just, your little Prudence is so lovely, and it is great. I love the dog space. It's been really, really enjoyable working in it, and I love being able to help people, and of course their dogs. But when you know and see how distraught dogs are, and then how much of an impact it can have on people's lives, it's really, really sad, and it's very stressful, and and it can affect people really badly. So helping to do this is a really great thing.
So so all the links are going to be in the show notes, Rachel, to the study. But just while people are tuning in, they can find all the details on your website, Rachel, which is?
Yeah, it's boilandbroth.com, and we're on all the social medias. You just have to go to Instagram, Facebook at Boil and Broth, and YouTube, all that sort of stuff.
Amazing. Well, oh gosh, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll be doing another one as an update as well on our study.
Yes, I can't wait for that, Anna. And they'll also, Anna, did you want to let your viewers or your listeners, let them know that they can get a discount on
I do
our
indeed.
website?
Yes.
Yeah,
So there is a discount being offered. So you just tap in. Remind me of the code, Rachel.
It's Anna Web 15. So Web with 2 B's.
It is Web with 2 B's. So Anna Web 15. So all listeners get that discount, order your Boil and Broth, which comes in so many flavors. And I just want to say, Rachel, because you did explain this to me, you source the bones from the most ethical, non-antibiotic and non-steroid farmers, right? And the bones have been eaten by animals that have eaten grass or eaten fresh worms, depending on which animal you choose.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really careful. We're really passionate as well about where our bones come from. We only source them through local farmers and local butchers here on the southwest of England. And and we're really keen to make sure that all our bones are of high quality. And I'm really, really confident that that is reflected through into our final product.
Amazing. Thank you again, Rachel, and we'll be chatting very soon.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. It's been really lovely to chat to you. Thank you for inviting me on, and look forward to our next one.
That's our show, Mr. Binks. What did you think? Yes, well, you're quite lucky, really, because you've had loads of bone broth all through your life. And you're right, it is time for Woof of the Week. If you're interested to find out how, by simply adding bone broth on a regular basis to your dog's diet, how it can make a big difference to the health of your pet's microbiome, then simply go to boilandbroth.com and find out about our study that is looking to prove that adding bone broth will make a positive contribution to your dog's health. Oh, well, I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, go on, give us a thumbs up wherever you tune into your podcasts. It really makes a difference. We love a good review. Thanks again, of course, to Rachel Downs for joining us today and for highlighting this amazing broth biome study. All the links are below, so it's simple for you to just click through and get involved with what is a landmark research project. Thanks again, of course, to Mike Hansen, my producer, for all the music and production as ever. Check out at Pod People UK. And for myself, find out more about how I can help perhaps you and your dog. I'm at Anna Webb Dogs. You're right, Mr. Binks. We will be back in your feed next Sunday. So make it easy. Subscribe now. It's totally free. And that way you'll never miss another show. Bye for now.
Pod People.